short-term gas, long-term nuclear, sure, but even this nuclear plan would make up maybe 10 to 20% at best of the total grid under what you've put forward, as I can see so far. When you talk about maturity in the debate, from here, there are no cheap options. Would you agree?
No, I think what you'll see is we'll be upfront and honest about the upfront costs that are significant for nuclear, but long-term payback is that legacy of baseload. Technology is still being invested in things like carbon capture storage in the right place. And in fact, the Japanese are taking our coal, our gas, burning it, and then bringing it back and storing their carbon in cavities 1.5 kilometres underground here in Australia. So the rest of the world is moving down a path of all technology, not one technology.
Sure, David.
And
so
regional
can I just
Australians
pick you up on that point as well? Yeah, because you talk about those transmission lines and you're right, regional Australians are going to bear the brunt of that. But I think people want to know this morning that you're not completely junking wind and solar. You're going to have to need that at quite an advanced capacity in the grid. So when we get your nuclear plan, are you going to tell us what that target is? If it's not 80% by 2030, what is it? Is it 50%?
Well, yeah, no, we certainly will. And what we'll demonstrate is not the transition by 2030 that this government's trying to take our country down. We'll show what our energy mix will be on that pathway to 2050. We have time to achieve that. We don't have to achieve it by 2030. And so we will be very upfront about what the energy mix will look like between now and 2050, making sure that we take into account all the technologies that are available to our country because we have sovereignty of all our resources. And regional Australia, for your city viewers, shouldn't bear the brunt of having to wear all the burden of an all renewables. I mean, we're having our livelihoods taken away, but your food security being torn up and your food prices going up because we're taking away prime agricultural land, but we're also destroying the very thing that Labor's purporting to protect.
But you've got to work out a way to do both, don't you? Is that what you're trying to work out? Because you need both.
That's
you need those transmission
nuclear
lines.
Power plants are very smart.
Yeah, but you need the transmission lines for renewables as well.
No, you don't, Laura. I'm sorry. You don't need as much transmission lines if you put nuclear power plants where coal-fired power stations are. That's common sense. We're reusing.
Yeah, but if it's only 20% of the grid and you're
ones.
still needing 50% renewables into the grid.
Well, I just be calm about what our total grid will be and what that'll look like. And what we will do is minimise the need for those transmission lines. I know, Laura, it's not my first radio either. So you'll see it very clear in the coming days, and we're going to be very upfront. We've had the courage of our conviction to come forward, but what we're saying to Australians is, even if you forget about us in regional Australia, which many metro people have, the reality is it just can't be done. You can't keep the lights on. Chris Minns proved that when he had to come out and ask you to turn the dishwasher off.
Yeah, I did ask Chris Bowen about that. Both just doing our jobs this morning. David Littleproud, thank you for your time. As always, we'll speak to you soon.